broadcast number 477 for Monday, July 16th. I'm Phil Franz Workington. ICE futures canola contracts were mostly higher Monday morning, as the oversold market saw some consolidation after hitting 10-month lows last week. Canola, it's down 10 cents to up $1, most months higher, November up $1 at $486 per ton. Early gains in Chicago soybeans provided additional spillover support for canola. Persistent weather concerns in parts of the prairies were also supportive, although conditions remain relatively favorable for crop development overall. A firm tone in the Canadian dollar and early losses in Chicago soy oil also pressured values. Soybeans are up 10 to 16 cents, November up 14 at $8.48 per bushel. Soybeans hit some of their lowest levels in 10 years last week. That left the market open to a correction. While the trade dispute between the U.S. and China does continue to weigh on prices, those cheap prices are bringing in other customers and total export movement remains solid. Expectations for good demand from the domestic crushing sector also provided support. Weather conditions across the Midwest do remain relatively favorable for crop development, and that's tempering the advances. Corn futures, they were also correcting after last week's losses. September up 3 cents in early trade at $3.44 per bushel. However, aside from that chart-based buying, the underlying fundamentals remain a bit bearish for corn, with good Midwestern weather and increasing harvest pressure out of South America weighing on prices. Wheat futures, they're lower, taking back some of Friday's gains. The September contract in Chicago down 3 cents at $4.94 per bushel. Kansas City wheat down 2 cents in September at $4.89 per bushel. And Minneapolis September spring wheat, it's down 3 cents at $5.28 per bushel. Seasonal harvest pressure and a rising production estimate out of Argentina accounted for some of today's early weakness in wheat, but production issues in Russia and Europe, where production estimates are being revised lower, did remain somewhat supportive. That's a look at the ICE futures and U.S. markets for Monday morning, July 16th. In Winnipeg for Markets Farm, I'm Phil Franz Workington.
Your operation, the right equipment, big savings, and Butler Farm Equipment in Fort St. John. They're the perfect match. Buy now, and you can get 0% financing, cash back, and more on the complete line of New Holland tractors, hay and forage products, and material handling equipment. Stop by Butler Equipment in Fort St. John for details, because the Perfect Match sales event ends September 13th. For commercial use only, customer participation subject to credit qualification. CNH Industrial Capital Canada Ltd. approval. Standard terms, conditions, and restrictions apply. Down payment may be required.
The opinions expressed during this show do not represent those of this station. If you've missed any of this show, you can follow the podcast at energeticcity.ca. Now, an in-depth look at the news and information shaping our community. This is Trev Talks with your host, Trevor Boland.
Good morning, welcome to Trev Talks. It is a rainy Friday morning, but we're in the studio here at Moose FM, and we are being joined by the Mayor of Fort St. John. We're having a conversation last week in regards to Kitimat and what's happening in Kitimat, and the perfect tie-in and the perfect segue to that is to have Her Worship come and talk to us a little bit about Fort St. John and what's happening in Fort St. John and what kind of things we're going to see with LNG. Your Worship, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Trevor.
So this is, of course, a little bit reverse for you and I, because it's typically, you interviewing me or you our conversations.
Telling you what to.
keeping me
how
in
to
line.
act.
Yeah, true enough. we discussed with Phil Germuth, the mayor of Kitimat last week, and then of course he had amazing things to say about you. And part of what our conversation was is what Kitimat can expect. So I mean, you work very closely, and I mean, you meet with industry daily, almost, I would imagine. I've seen your calendar. Give us an idea, what kind of things from conversations that you've had and looking at the community are we getting into? Like, what is this going to mean for Fort St. John?
So let's back this right up to when LNG first joined the alphabet soup. we had realized through all of the research that we had done on how we were going to be impacted by Site C that there was going to be a far more significant impact. At the same time, we realized that our neighbors at the downstream end of things were not familiar with natural gas or LNG. So, as you know, Council took the initiative to create an energy literacy campaign, and we invited a lot of those people up to Fort St. John. We put on the PPE, we climbed a rig, they saw a pigging station out at the college. You know, we did some presentations on how the community was impacted, how we managed that, how we created an official community plan that showed industry what the community's vision of our future would be. And so a lot of these communities at the downstream end of things realize that natural gas is something that has been a significant part of society for many, many decades. And so the conversation with the proponents and the downstream communities changed significantly because now they were having an informed conversation. So Fort St. John has been involved. I've gone out to Terrace Kitimat several times to talk to them about our official community plan and how to do these plans. And we have not let our foot off the gas pedal. We have been working really hard to make sure that the community is ready to go.
Beautiful.
So I can tell you the list of unplanned initiatives from 2011 onwards is far longer than what we had planned. And that's a result of being in a community that has so many things coming at it, right? Like you mentioned my calendar. Yesterday, I started at 8 o'clock in the morning and my meetings were back to back.
Your calendar would honestly scare anybody. That is something that I think residents of Fort St. John, you should actually post it on Facebook. Just a screenshot of what your weekly, you know, and you and I have joked about this for years because it's one thing that I've said when I look at your calendar is the reason that you do what you do so well, you know, and the respect I have for you because not only does it encompass industry and like we said, you know, meetings with Canada LNG or pipeline projects or all these different things, but it's the pulse of our housing market. It's the pulse of going, you know, from a shortage to an overabundance and now what seems to be like we're going to be going back to a shortage again probably in the coming years with these projects. So, you know, what do you know, I mean, everybody's followed along with our boundary, you know, the city's boundary expansions and everything that the city's done to try to do this. And where do you see that going as far as population? Like I know the city's done some pretty in-depth, you know, long year studies and strategies on where we're going to be or what route we're headed.
Yeah, so we've always said that, you know, Fort St. John has been around one way, shape, or form since the late 1700s, and we will continue to be here for many, many years afterwards. And while the oil and gas industry is very much a part of our lives right now, it's really been around for 60 years. We know it'll be around for another 40 years at least, because that's the export license that the LNG proponents have. So we've been around for a long time. We're going to be around a whole lot longer. Our industries evolve. We now have microbreweries. I think there's a lot more opportunity for value add. So how we manage our growth and creating those master plans, like for example, our master transportation plan, when it's principle based. So it's based on being able to get our residents around Fort St. John safely and efficiently. And we look at our growth. We look at never having T intersections because you need to grow beyond that T intersection. We looked at an affordable housing committee and how to manage affordable housing in Fort St. John was unique to any other community in British Columbia, which is the jurisdiction that we actually have to work with.
Agreed, 100%.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. I love that you brought up the 40-year export license because right now in the media and whether it's BIV or Western Investor, a lot of these market-driven reports, they're all based on this whole Kitimat play. And when we were talking to Graham and to Phil last week, they were mentioning Shell's lease as being a 10-year project, and everything was 10 years or less, and you bring up this 40-year export license or exportation license, and what people need to really realize is that for what that 10 years is on the coast, there's 40 years of that happening here in Fort St. John.
Yeah, so many years ago, the Conference Board of Canada actually did a report, and I think I might be able to find it if anyone wants it still. They did a report showing that for every $1 billion that's invested in BC's Northwest, there will be minimum $3.86 billion invested here.
Wow, so over 3 times the value.
Well, you can say almost 4. Almost 4 times.
That's incredible.
Well, but the reality is, we are literally, not always, but literally everyone's upstream.
Yeah.
Right.
Of the entire, all the projects.
Yep. Yeah. So it's an opportunity for us to build capacity, not only in our communities, our volunteer groups, but our businesses. Having a 40-year business plan is far different than what this community is used to with the year-to-year drilling program.
Agreed.
Right?
Yeah, agreed.
So they know they've got an LNG plant that will eventually have 4 trains. The LNG Canada is doing 2 to begin with. They've got room for 2 more. So 4 trains, filling that 4 trains up, they know how much natural gas they need.
That is phenomenal. Okay, we're going to go to a quick break right now, and then we'll be joined back by Her Worship, and we'll focus a little bit more on this Fort St. John happening place.
Strong demand for cattle at BJV Dawson Creek. Cows up into the 90s, bulls as high as 120, and yearling prices continue to rise. If you have cattle to sell, please contact the market or your local field representative. Why take one person's opinion? Sell by public auction for optimum discovery and value.
At Complete Safety Services, they specialize in, you guessed it, safety. They provide field safety advisors and certified medics with fully equipped MTCs and trucks that are maintained to the highest standards. They can prepare companies for their COR certification, write safety programs, manage ISN and ComplyWorks. Not only that, but Complete Safety Services now offers traffic control, hotshotting, and pilot car services. Complete Safety Services, striving to ensure a safe and healthy working environment on 100th Street in Fort St. John and online at completesafety.ca.
Our biggest inventory clearance ever.
Start the car! Start the car!
Save from 40 to 75% off store-wide right now.
The coolest kid clothing.
Smarty Pants Kids Clothing is having the biggest store-wide clearance sale ever right now. They're liquidating almost their entire inventory in the coolest kids clothing at up to 75% off. Brand names like Billabong, Fox, and Volcom, with plenty of time till back to you-know-what.
Smarty Pants is the best.
Save 40 to 75% off right now at Smarty Pants Kids Clothing.
Mom, this new iPad is so much faster than my old one.
Oh, is that right?
Totally. I told you I needed a new one. Plus, the screen was all cracked. Thanks, Mom.
You bought her a new iPad?
No, I got the screen fixed at Micro Consulting. She just thinks it's new.
Ah, well played, Mom. Up top. With Micro Consulting, you don't need to get a new iPad every time the screen cracks. It's much cheaper to come to Micro and get it fixed properly. Micro Consulting Sales and Service, keeping you connected on 100th Street and on Facebook. At United Rentals, they know all those summer jobs around the house can't be done all by yourself, so they offer an expanded fleet of small tools and equipment for sale or to rent to help you get the job done. Stop into United Rentals today and check out their lineup of mini smooth drum rollers, mini excavators, skid steers, push-around lifts, power augers, pumps, breakers from handheld electrics to skid steer mounted units, and lots more. For full details, call United Rentals at 250-262-3005.
All garage doors are not alike, especially the hardware. Here's Coin from Alpine Glass to offer some clarity.
With garage doors, there's hardware, then there's Duraware. Every Steelcraft component is made by Steelcraft. Tracks, hinges, and rollers are made in Canada to handle our rugged Canadian weather. Durable and highly efficient. Steelcraft doors are made to last. Add to that the best installers in the business, and you've got a winning team.
Your choice is clear. Call Alpine for the best in garage doors.
One man in the heart of Fort St. John on a mission.
Jesse, that's been done before.
Oh, all right. In a faraway land.
Yeah, that's also been done. And you've just wasted like 15 seconds of your ad time. Just be normal.
Oh, okay. Hey, my name is Jesse Lambert, owner of JD Knives and Custom Works, Fort St. John's very own custom knife shop. We make leather goods, we offer sharpening services, and of course, make custom knives. Find us on Facebook and at jdknives.ca to find out more. Rated A for awesome.
Oh, for crying out loud!
When it comes to real estate law, we can help you every step of the way. Hi, my name is Rob Zunert, and I've been a lawyer at Collison Zunert Law Corporation for 15 years. We specialize in residential and commercial real estate transactions. We strive to provide our clients with high-value services at very competitive rates. Not only that, but our lawyers offer the added benefit of legal advice, if necessary, in the event of unforeseen complications, often at no extra cost. So whether you're selling or purchasing property, refinancing a mortgage, please contact our real estate team at Collison Zunert Law Corporation in Fort St. John at 250-785-8033 or by visiting czlaw.ca.
Watch this show live on Facebook or download the podcast at energeticcity.ca. This is Trev Talks with Trevor Bolin.
Welcome back. We are into our final part of discussions with Her Worship the Mayor of the City of Fort St. John. Off air a little bit, we're talking about some of the progress the city's made over the years regarding strategic plans. A lot of the meetings have happened. Tell us a little bit so people get an idea of what actually goes into this. I think a lot of people sometimes think that, boom, industry happens and you just kind of meet with them and everything flows, but there's a lot of years that go into that. And I mean, you've been mayor for 2 terms. You were a council for 2 before that. So I mean, you've got 4 terms into this, dealing with this. Yeah. Tell us about that.
Well, when I first became the mayor in the fall of 2011, one of my questions to our city staff was, what have we done with the community regarding Site C? Have we had the conversation? It's outside of our boundaries. It's outside of our sphere of influence. We have no jurisdiction over it, but we would be impacted. We felt we would be impacted. So we did that Let's Talk Site C. That was a summer we'll never get back. Yeah, and what we did was we created a significant foundation of research to take to the Joint Review Panel. And with all of that information, we were able to take that and add it to how do we react to LNG with that expected growth. And I should also say, you know, when the panel came out to look at how the National Energy Board should be revised, I was the only municipal elected leader that presented to them across Canada.
Out of everybody, out of
all the stops that they made. And I just can't believe that other municipalities are not taking the opportunity to stand up and say, our municipalities will be impacted with the yes or the no. And, you know, we need to step up to the plate and start doing that. And that's actually why we did, about 2 years ago, a rally on the steps of the provincial legislature at the Union of BC Municipalities, and about 200 or 300 people attended.
Yeah, it was large, huge.
It was huge.
Do you think? I'm gonna ask you real quick though. Do you think that they don't get involved because they don't understand it as much as maybe you do? Like you've kind of, I mean, you've dealt with this your entire time in Fort St. John. You know what I mean? Like no matter what you were in. I mean, even prior to being mayor with SciTech, I mean, that was still a large part of industry. And do you think that maybe they don't get it? They need to look at the energy literacy plan that the city of Fort St. John has done. You know what I mean? Like that, to have that conversation of how you went from not being part of the conversation to being the conversation. Mm-hmm.
Well, you know, I certainly can't speak for why all of them aren't getting engaged. My role, not only as the Executive Director for the Science Innovation Technology Council, was one end of the community economic development spectrum. I was also the Family Service Director of the Salvation Army prior to that. So I've seen the entire continuum of economic development. And so that's why I can see how having strong businesses can support our social sector. And that goes on. We see that daily here with our Child Development Center, Women's Resources Society, our Hospital Foundation. All of those are supported by a strong business. And we have these nonprofit agencies providing services to our community, whether it's our vulnerable population right through to arts, culture, and recreation. And if they start to fail, then people fall through the cracks. And I've always said that the senior levels of government, when they shift policy, we're the catch basin for all of those issues. So how do we ensure that we don't have people falling through the cracks? So as a municipal government, we need to do everything we can. And that's why we have a really robust strategic plan moving forward. And we have actually taken our strategic plan and linked it to the United Nations Strategic Development Goals for communities, for settlements. And so when you have the ability to do stuff like that, then I can argue industrial growth, responsible industrial growth to anybody.
Which is huge, because I think that's, especially with the way our province is, and even potential our federal government, they need to understand that, and you be able to, to have those facts and be able to back up why it's so important to run the two parallel, I think is phenomenal.
Yeah, it has to happen. We have a province that has a high demand for respect for the environment. And I'm happy with that, because that's our backyard. Yeah. We also have an industry that leaves a footprint, but every industry leaves a footprint, every person leaves a footprint. And as a consumer, it's my responsibility to decrease that. So when you've got an industry that is being regulated at the degree that it is being regulated, everyone is, as I said, leaves a footprint. How do we decrease that? And how do we encourage businesses to do research and development to decrease their footprint? How do we encourage them to contribute back to the community? So that's why any proponent that comes and sees us, and I met with the proponent, I met with TransCanada yesterday, and Macro, Solaris, and Bannister were there as well, talking about how they're going to manage things. So that project, that North Montney line, is outside of Fort St. John, but it will impact Fort St. John. So we talked to them about how do we decrease any detrimental footprint in Fort St. John. Beautiful, beautiful.
Well, just real quick, what kind of do you know what kind of an employment number that those companies are looking at? Like, what kind of a benefit as far as employment goes? Like, I've seen some different things in some of the media outside of this area, but I mean, it's always nice to kind of have a homegrown look at it.
So they all were talking about numbers, but those the actual phases of the pipeline are going to be phased in. So, when they're talking peak 700 people for one of the phases, that could be, some of those 700 people could very well be from moving from one phase to the next one.
And then carrying over.
So
yeah.
I think what we have to recognize, most importantly, is that 2 out of those 3 pipeline builders are local. Yeah. Solaris Murphy, as well as Macro Spicapeg, and we have shown this industry that we can have local contractors and local people who can build the big pipe.
Agreed. Beautifully, Your Worship. That is all for this segment, so thank you very much, Your Worship, for joining us. It is great to see the projects they're having. It's great to see the amount that you've invested as far as time and knowledge into what is about to transpire in Fort St. John. So we look forward to having you back on the show as we probably hear more about Canada LNG and what is to come. So thanks again for joining us.
Thanks.
Perfect. So coming up next, we've got Chris Newton is going to join us live. He is down at the Pomeroy Sport Centre right here in Fort St. John, and he is witnessing the event that the group that's trying to break the world record for the longest paper airplane flight. So we're going to take a quick commercial break, and then you can join us back and learn right here live what is going on down at the Pomeroy Sports Centre.
It's all up to you.
You talking to me?
What should we play next? Call 250-787-2222 or text 250-800-2360. Brought to you by Wendy's.
A chocolate frosty or a vanilla frosty? That's one of summer's toughest questions. But when it's only 99 cents, why not try both? The 99-cent frosty, only at Wendy's.
It's City Furniture's Boxing Week in July. Appliances are on sale. Ranges, dishwashers, fridges, mattresses are on sale. Furniture, sofas, dining sets, recliners. Often you can take it home today or ask about delivery. And make no payments, no interest till summer 2019. Boxing Week prices for a limited time at the Canadian Home Furnishings Alliance Retailer of the Year in Western Canada. Value, service, City Furniture.
Tires are one of the most important and least exciting purchases you will ever make. No one has ever let out a whoop, performed an end zone dance, and then smooched a stranger after buying tires. No one. But when you need tires, you need OK Tire. Right now, switch to Kumho Tires. Kumho Solus is specifically engineered for all seasons all across Canada with road hazard protection. OK Tire. Service, repair, and tires. For Kumho Tires, visit us at OK Tire today at 10808 100th Avenue.
Keys and locks, business or residential, System Secure does it all. They can do master systems, vehicle lockouts, rekeying, key cutting, and more. Call today to find out more or to book an appointment. System Secure in Fort St. John and at systemsecurelocksmith.ca.
Who doesn't like to save money? Exactly, we all do. So get to Marcy's Bright Ideas for their summer sale with 30 to 75% off the entire store. Huge savings on everything. Marcy's Bright Ideas on 100th, Facebook, and at marcysbrightideas.net. It's more than just lighting.
If you're looking for hassle-free internet services, call the Peace Region Internet Society today. With coverage throughout most of the Peace, PRIS can get you connected quickly without the hassle of contracts or bundles. Visit PRIS.ca or call 1-800-768-3311 for more information.
Now, a Sports Boosters update.
If you have any sporting information for Sports Boosters, send it to Moose FM. You can fax it 263-9749, email sports@moosefm.ca, or even call us at 787-7100. Moose FM, proud to support local sports.
Send us your sports info, sports@moosefm.ca, or by fax, 263-9749. Sports Boosters on Moose FM.
Time to update your wardrobe? Time to head to This and That. Get 25 to 50% off all clothing during their summer sale. Tops, dresses, skirts, and more. Plus denim is buy one, get one half off. This and That. A little of this, a little of that, and a lot of everything. On 100th Street and also on Facebook.
Ryerson Contracting, proud to be a sponsor of local sports. Ryerson Contracting, specialists in pipeline and facility construction, turnarounds, and maintenance. Let Ryerson Contracting's combination of quality personnel and equipment complete your next job with safety and integrity. Call 785-0515.
Our community first. This is Trev Talks with your host, Trevor Boland.
Thanks for joining us for the second set of the segment today. We wrapped up with Her Worship Laurie Ackerman, some very exciting things happening in the city to come and currently happening. But you know what? Let's move on to what's happening right now in the city of Fort St. John. Our next guest is Chris Newton from Moose FM and Energetic City, of course. He is down at the Pomeroy Sport Centre where John Collins and Joe Ayub are attempting to break the record or have broke the record. Chris, can you hear me?
I absolutely can hear you, actually.
Okay, good. Well, welcome to the show. This is kind of a reverse thing for you and I. It appears that this is my opportunity to ask you the question. So tell us a little bit. What's going on down at the Pomeroy Sports Centre right now?
So what's going on right now? They've made 5 official attempts. They have 10 official attempts to break the Guinness World Record for the longest paper airplane flight, which is 226 feet 10 inches. And I don't know if you can see behind me, we got TV crew set up. But way off in the background, there's a light bar on the floor, which is where the previous record was set by these two gentlemen in 2012. So they have to get that plane past that on an official attempt, though. And so far, their official attempts have come close, but nothing quite yet.
So they've got about five official attempts remaining.
Correct. Yeah, they are waiting for number 6, which. I was talking to Parker Andrews, who, of course, he's the 6-year-old kid who was the reason, really, that these two gentlemen are in town. And he said he firmly believes they're going to do it on attempt number 6.
So what does this mean? So I mean, so say I mean, whether it's attempt number 6, whether it's attempt number 10, say they officially break the world record, and I mean, obviously Guinness Book of World Records is there, as well as other media you said that are behind you. How big of an event is this to happen right in the Pomeroy Sports Centre here in Fort St. John?
I mean, this has got to be absolutely massive. I mean, there's not every single day that you've got Fort St. John put on the map in the Guinness Book of World Records. In fact, I can't honestly recall a time I've seen Fort St. John inside the Guinness World Records. You've got some towns in Alberta that have got records for, the biggest Easter egg or the biggest beaver in Beaver Lodge. And I mean, those are Guinness World Records, and I don't think Fort St. John's on the map. So if they manage to do this, this is going to be big. 226 feet is a huge distance. That's 26 feet longer than a hockey rink.
And are these paper planes? Are they made with 8.5 by 11? Are they 11 by 17? What are they constructing these out of?
So these, and there's one that literally just landed on the ground behind me. If you can see that there. So these planes have to be built from I believe it's an A4 piece of paper, which is an antiquated paper format very similar in size to an 8.5 by 11 inch.
Yeah, basically what you use in a photocopier or a fax machine, yeah.
Exactly, yeah. So they have to use that. It has to be, there's only a certain thickness it can be used. He's only allowed to use up to 30 millimeters of tape to keep the thing together. So he can slice that tape up and attach it to areas of the plane at his will, but he's only allowed 30 millimeters of it. From what I was told, it takes him about 20 minutes to make every single plane, about 5 minutes to fold it, and then another 15 minutes to fine tune it with the tape.
Wow. So each of the 10 attempts is a new plane that he has to build in order to break this record.
He's got, I mean, he made as many planes as possible. I think I saw about 9 or 8 planes that were sitting over in his little crates. And of course, these planes are incredibly fine-tuned. Not only did it take him, forever to fold it, but he's the only one, this John Collins who builds the planes, he's the only one that is allowed to touch these planes. He tells the camera guys, anyone else in the Pomeroy here, do not touch the planes, because even picking it up improperly, moving the folds, or even the oil on your fingers can have a detrimental effect to the airplane. We've been seeing a lot of issues with the humidity in the air, actually. He's spoken about how the humidity in the air inside the Pomeroy because of the weather is creating some issues for them right now that they have to overcome.
That's incredible, and I guess that science behind it. I've seen Parker's mom, the young guy who I guess started all this and ended up contacting John Collins. Parker's mom had shared on Facebook a live video or a video made by Bill Nye the Science Guy behind what sort of a astronomical event this is and the science behind it, which you've explained is why it's so important.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they've got to do so much fine tweaking of their airplanes. The slightest movement of the airplane's control surfaces, they've got, of course, just 3. You've got the 2, what they're referred to as elevons on the wings, which are a combination of elevator and aileron, which will give the plane up and down pitch and then left and right roll. And then you've got the yaw of the plane, which is controlled by the rudder. And just the slightest movement will make that thing take off in directions that you can't not even close to a record.
How many spectators are there at the event, just watching on waiting for this to happen?
We had actually both on this the close side. If you walk into the rink, on the closest side, there's 2 bleachers. They were full earlier. Now I think a bunch of kids had to leave for their daycare stuff. But I mean, there's still definitely some diehard fans here. Several dozen people here watching this event unfold. This is really potentially history being made.
That is awesome. Well, I'm super glad it's being made right here in Fort St. John and, of course, at the Pomeroy Sport Centre. So if anybody wants to go down and check it out, they certainly can. It's by the sounds of it, you guys will be there probably for a little bit yet, Chris.
Yeah, they're doing a lot of fine-tuning. What they're doing right now, they've had issues with their plane is when Joe Ayoub throws it, and he's not throwing it at full force, even though he's already thrown an airplane more than 100 times today. The plane is coming up at a very high angle like this, stalling, and then it's shooting back toward the floor, which is it's causing it to sort of come to a rest about, I want to say about 100 and some odd feet, halfway up the hockey rink. So they need to get at least double that. So it's a lot of fine tuning right now before they start making more official attempts. But hopefully this one plane that we're dealing with is it seems to be flying a little bit better. So we might see it pretty quick here.
Awesome. Well, you guys have a fantastic day. I'm sure people can check in later on Energetic and Moose FM. I imagine you'll have some results as well as interviews with the proponents and what it took to put this event together. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for filling in people locally that couldn't make it down there. What is happening? And we will talk to you soon.
Thanks so much. Have a good one.
You too. That wraps up this episode of Trev Talks on a rainy Friday day. We will be back next week with some special guests that you want to tune into and find out what's going on locally in the market. Again, thanks to you very much, and have a great weekend.
You've been listening to Trev Talks, a weekly talk show about Fort St. John and the Northeast. The Fort City Chrysler Midday